Hi, our guest today is Sandra Slattery Biagetti, a candidate for state rep for the 10th Worcester District, which represents Mendon, Hopedale, Milford, and Precinct 1 of Medway. Welcome, Sandra.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So, why are you running for office?
Well, I'm running for office. Actually, I've been considering this probably for the past few years, but I really like John Fernandez, and I had too much respect for him to actually run against him in the race. I've seen a lot of things. I've been an insurance agent for 30 years, and I've seen a lot of things come across my desk that can only be changed at a higher level. And to do that, I would have to at least start out in the state reps position. But I've been working with, in this 30 years, I've been working with people of all levels of life and just enjoy helping them, not only with insurance. They come to me for help with excise tax abatements, the appeals for their accidents, which is not an insurance agent's job to do, with their electric bills, trying to speak with people on behalf of them for their cable bills. And it's something that I would absolutely be doing at the same level. And I have worked with thousands of residents and my clients. So this just really intrigued me and interested me, and I have the qualifications for it.
You've held local office, so.
Pardon?
You've held local office in Hopedale.
Oh, yes, I've been selectman in Hopedale. I was on the Board of Education or the school committee in Hopedale. I'm still on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I'm on the opioid task force with the police and fire. Okay. And I've been on the search committee to get our town administrator, Steve Setti, who has turned out to be a wonderful selection.
A find.
He really is. And so that's one of my bonuses.
Yeah, once in a while you get a town administrator that all the board seems to like as they change members and who does a great job, and you've got one. So, you know, I think of the folks in Franklin and Bellingham who've been there for a long time. He'll be another one that's around for quite a while.
He will. I hope so.
Yeah. Now, what is the single biggest issue that you think you have to deal with?
Well, I think the number one is going to be the illegal immigration. That it's become very, very costly for the town of Milford anyway. The education, the schools have just significantly, the costs have been so significant there as far as this goes. But it's also, I feel that we need to make it less attractive for people to come in. The expense here is incredible. We pay for translators. We've been paying for, we pay attorneys' fees when they need to be represented.
But how do you make that less attractive? If most of immigration law comes from the federal government, what can you do at the state level to make it less attractive?
Well, there's also benefits that come through in the welfare side of it as well. And that's state here. A lot of the local aid, we could use the local aid that comes in for as far as the increased expenses in the schools. We can definitely do something about that. We make it less attractive by providing less benefits. Now, I certainly don't want to see anyone go hungry. I don't want to see anybody without a roof over their head. But this is one of the biggest expenses that we have. And it's taking away from local businesses as well, because these are businesses that are being run under the table. They don't pay for their payroll taxes. They don't have to have workers' comp insurance. They don't have to pay unemployment taxes. and it takes away the business from our local businesses as well. So we're losing at many levels here.
Okay. What else are the issues you're running on?
I did do welfare reform, but I would like to see some local aid increased. We're really desperate for some increase in local aid. I'm working on also, I'd love to work on with Medway as far as, they have quite a few things going on right now. They have a 40B project that might cause some increased population in the schools. They also have the gas line that people are upset about. I'd really like to walk that gas line, honestly, and see what's going on with that, but I haven't had that opportunity. When you're running for these, it's really tough to get in the middle of everything.
Right.
You don't want to step on the toes
Of the people who
of
are
the
in now.
selectmen and the boards that are taking care of this. And it's, you don't want to move in on people. It's just not, it's just disrespectful.
Right.
So you stand back and you just try to focus a little bit on each thing, and just hopefully you can have some type of input after you're in.
Okay.
It's going to be, there's going to be a learning curve,
Right.
and my intention is to sit back and to observe who all of and show my respect to the senior reps that are there. My plan is also, I'd like to say when I become rep, is that I would regularly visit, go to board meetings. I'd visit all committees, police, fire, water departments, and hopefully, I really hope that Milford is able to get that water department and own it.
They're getting there. It's in mediation.
Well, they have to get up there. Right now, they're trying to figure out what the value is, all the hardware.
Yeah, the value is in
Right.
mediation.
Right.
Value is, they're having
You
a
know,
value.
I'd love to be able to look at that, but like I said, there's only so much you can do
Right.
without being disrespectful
That's true.
to the people that are involved.
Yeah, I mean, technically, they're in office until the end of the calendar year.
Well, exactly. But regardless, I don't want to push myself onto anyone.
Right.
You know, like come in there and try to be the hero. That's not my style at all.
Right, but you're also as
Yes.
a whatever term you want to use, newly elected, junior rep, freshman
Right,
rep,
right,
whatever
right,
term,
right.
there's obviously a learning curve for anybody.
There is. Also, in my industry right now, I can read a policy. And anybody who can read a policy, a Massachusetts insurance policy,
Yep.
I've read some of the bills, that's nothing to me. It's,
I don't have a problem reading the bills and the court decisions.
Mm-hmm.
If you just abstract out all the legal citations, they're pretty much common English. Insurance policies, I'll give you credit for. I grew up, my dad ran an insurance company. I grew up in that
yes,
business.
he did, right.
And I'll tell you something, well, you're in the business, but I give you credit for being able to read them.
They're made to be confusing.
Of course they are,
Mm-hmm.
especially the endorsements.
Exactly. And the endorsements to bills can be just as confusing.
Right. Speaking of different kind of endorsements, you recently benefited from Governor Baker stopping by
I did.
at Pins the other day and giving you an endorsement.
I was so
You think
pleased.
that's giving you a boost to your campaign, or?
Well, I just think my presence around, I've been door knocking every day, every evening, every day, and
I know you
I'm
came to my
hoping that
house.
has, exactly, I did,
Wow,
right?
did you carry a gun when you went there? I mean, does live in the boonies. I mean,
You you have to hear the funny story. It was before a Patriots football game.
Oh.
My son and I had ordered a pizza, and the doorbell rang, and I had $20
I
in
was
my
a
hand.
pizza
And opened the
delivery.
door, and it's Sandra.
Oh.
And
he's
my
handing
son's
me
standing in the
money.
steps, and after she left, he goes, "I guess that wasn't the pizza guy."
that's a good one, huh?
She thought, I think you thought I was going to make a campaign contribution.
You should have taken
I don't know what it was for.
grab the 20 and take off. Grab the 20 and take off.
No, it's just a funny story.
I was very pleased with Governor Baker coming to that, and he seemed to really enjoy himself there, and everybody got their pictures, but he's such a down-to-earth, decent man with a huge amount of common
I
sense.
think a lot of people were shocked he showed up in a polo shirt and blue jeans. They were expecting a suit and tie, and he just came as Charlie Baker.
Yes, everybody was very comfortable with him and pleased, and he stayed quite a while.
I still
Well-
think Senator Fatman's daughter stole the show.
Oh, she's adorable.
Brian
She
Fatman
is.
and
Yep.
his wife brought their
Oh,
3-month-old
really?
daughter
Oh,
Hadley.
wow. Yeah, she
Yep.
probably, that would have probably stole the show.
She did. She's a cutie.
You know. But getting back, I mean, basically, this shows an opportunity for you to share with potential, not potential voters,
Voters. Right.
who may be on the fence right now, why they should vote for you. So what do you want to tell them?
Well, I graduated. I was born and raised in Milford, and I graduated from Milford. And I didn't really have the opportunity because of financial situation back then, and my family didn't have the money to send me to college. So I had to work right out of high school. And to help financially, there were times I worked 2 and 3 jobs, a full-time job and 2 part-time jobs. And so I'm used to working very, very hard. And I have a huge amount of energy. And I just have a great work ethic. And this is what I'll bring there. People could, I'm going to get a separate cell phone. And people can contact me 24/7. And this is the way I work in my business right now.
There's a heritage in that seat, you know.
I'm very committed.
That was the hallmark of Marie Parenti before John. And I can tell you, as a town official in a neighboring town, I would often get calls from her at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night saying, I found what you're looking for. And I think Representative Fernandez has carried on that tradition of good constituent service. So I think you'll
I
find
would
people,
I
people
would-
are used to that in this district.
Without question.
I do that now. I have groups of people having maybe a party on a Saturday night that'll put me on speakerphone. They'll call me up and ask me insurance questions during a pool party. And I,
Yeah, I can just see it now. Well, my
know-
daughter's drowning, and I was just curious about what the insurance company. Get to see it now.
No, I'm trying to think of what questions they would be asking during a pool party.
oh, about their kids driving cars and surcharges and, a lot of them would call me and do this. And I have no problem at all answering questions. As long as I'm awake to answer the telephone, I'll do it. But that's a promise. And I usually, my word is definitely my word. And very, very loyal. And I would never deny anybody if they ask me a question. If I don't know, or if it's, and I'll never say it's not my job. Maybe you may say, and I wanted to say this before, that there are certain things that are at federal level, but how is the federal level supposed to know unless those of us at the
Right.
local level let them know what's going on?
But you can also refer somebody to the right federal person. to
Absolutely.
talk to.
No, absolutely. But to say it's not my job, if it's not my job, I'll find out whose job it is.
Right.
And that's what I do. You don't leave anybody without anything, or saying, I can't do that.
All right, I'll
can't
tell
do
you,
that for
over
you.
the years, I've heard from various people in the State House, I don't know, but I'll get you an answer.
Exactly.
And it may take me a few days, and invariably, especially in the days of email, you get an answer, and then you're happy.
That's right.
Because even if it's a no to your
At
question,
least you got an answer.
you got an answer. As opposed to a form letter or a, which is great from Washington. If you've ever written to a senator or congressman, you get the standard form letter that basically says,
Right.
my machine read your letter, thank you.
And this
People-
is my
people like the
machine
personal
signature.
touch.
Or I'll get back. I'll at least call. If somebody leaves me a message, I'd call them and let them know I'm working on this, but I will get back to you. People need to know that you're working on their behalf, and like you said,
Right.
even if the answer's not what they really want to hear, at least they know you did
But
something.
you got an
about it.
answer. And
Exactly.
I like the fact if somebody gets back to me and gives an answer, even if it's not what I was hoping for.
That's right.
Because you know they actually did it and follow through.
I think that probably the most, in my mind, the most important part is to be engaged in the community, to be visible in the community.
Absolutely.
To be there, not just, my office hours are from this time to this time, but to be in the community, engaged, visible. And that's one of the things that John and Marie were always engaged and visible in the community.
Yeah, I've been to quite a few of the Eagles scout ceremonies and presented citations for the towns, and you know, always have been very active with the towns. I used to volunteer for the food pantry and the Humane Society, and
Now, one of Al's usual questions I'm going to ask today,
You're allowed to ask him.
which is, three of us have all been selectmen in our respective towns we live in. And Al, as I do, believes that you get to a certain level in government, and above that, they really don't know the constituents well. And the one-on-one is lost, and sometimes Al thinks it's at the selectman level, and beyond that, you don't meet the people. I think it's at the state rep and senator level, and above that, you start losing contact. And I think that goes to what you just said, to be involved in things. Do you still plan to be involved in things in Medway and Milford and Hopedale and Mendon?
absolutely.
And how do you pick and choose when there's a conflict? If you got 5 events going on, well, let's say one event each town on the same day, how do you decide what to do, or to try to hit them all?
You split yourself up. That's exactly what you do.
That's when you go to the doctor and get a clone.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
Or send a
you
picture.
do. You split yourself up, and you do a little at each.
Yeah. I just remember years and years ago when Lou Bertinazi was the state senator. He was at the Mendon Country Fair, and you know, there's 4 million raffle tables there. And his wife, you know, and of course he'd do $1 at each thing. And his wife had a little stamp the size of the raffle tickets with his name, address, and phone number. And she'd be handing out the $1 and stamping all the tickets behind him. And I never got that image out of my mind as the, you know, we've got to support everybody. And she had that stamp, and just, you know, he'd be walking around and doing that. And I used to say, that's amazing.
Well, I learned to walk around with those address labels
Yep.
that you get, you know, when you make your donations and they send you address labels, so you just peel those off and you put all of them on there. It keeps you from having to stand there and write your name on every one of them.
That's a great idea. I never thought about that. I've never done that.
Well, instead of
gonna do
throwing them away,
I just, well, Mike, I just never plan on winning. It's just give them the money and forget it.
So what are some of the issues you've learned about? Let's take
How about
Medway.
how about the 40B in Milford that's on the table?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
well, we've dealt with some 40Bs. I think what bothers me about the 40Bs is
Yeah.
that they skirt the zoning laws. Zoning laws are there for a purpose.
Well, but the state
And
put
they do.
40B in, saying towns were using zoning to
As-
zone out these
I know,
people.
the Anti-Snob Act. I
Right.
It's
know.
a snob zoning.
Right,
Right.
right, right.
So that's their
No.
excuse for saying you can go around zoning.
I understand that, but not all. I really think there should be some criteria that can be set
Right.
so that it's not too invasive. I understand the purpose
You can't
behind-
argue the fact that Milford has its share of housing stock.
Oh, I would never argue the fact that
Far more than Hopedale, Mendon, and Medway.
Milford
It has
has-
its share of
yes.
apartments and
It-
what I would deem housing at many levels of affordability.
But what's the statistical information that the state provides, because I just got this today at my meeting. Affordable housing count in Milford is
6.7.
Yeah, percent.
Well, it has to be,
to
state
be
only
10.
counts subsidized housing.
Yeah, affordable housing. See, people have a misconception. They
You're
think 40B is
low income.
low income
It's
housing.
not low income.
It's
It's-
affordable
It's
housing.
46,500 is the current
Yes.
income maximum for one person.
Right.
I don't consider that poor.
No,
I
no.
consider it tough to get by in Massachusetts economy, but it's definitely not poor.
No,
But
it's definitely not.
But what it does have an impact on, it does have an impact on the schools.
It
has
does.
because it,
Well, in the Milford project, you're talking 300 units.
right,
I think the biggest issue outside of
well, there's a couple big
traffic,
issues.
well, the citizens from Milford held a forum a week or two ago on it, and probably the single biggest issue that came up there is water supply.
Water supply and
Because-
sewage.
Because
Those are
sewage
two.
is not really an issue. The developer's responsible for putting the pipeline in, and that's, you know, that's a burden to bear in that geography. But, you know, the Milford Water Company basically said, yeah, we can supply water to it, and everybody wanted to know how, if you're putting me on restrictions and the reservoir is half full, can you say there's water? And they did a little backtracking and then said, well, we could supply it when the reservoir's full. That's what we meant.
And
That's not what they
happens when
said.
it's not?
Well,
They can't supply it.
But can the sewer
Well, they have the
company,
cap-
can they,
They have the capacity.
well, here's the
they
trick.
can have,
The trick is putting the sewer in, and the last guy that was in there had to blast through a whole bunch of,
Well, no, the sewer plant has the capacity. The issue is,
putting it in.
there's two issues with putting the pipe in. You need to put a sewer main in from the location on East Main Street
And pump it.
down to the corner of Fortune Boulevard and East Main Street to the pumping station there. That, so first is just the geography of going through granite to put that pipe in.
right,
Second of all, most people would put a dedicated, what they call a forced main, which is pumped
Yeah,
down there. However, when you add sewer to an area that doesn't have sewer, you are supposed to also put in a regular main so that any property along the way can tie in.
correct.
So in fact, you'd be putting two mains in. And then the other issue is that pumping station is badly in need of an upgrade to handle anything more than it has now. And the question is, does the developer pay for that or does the town? And that is probably going to be an issue of contention for
There's
the
some
zoning board to
significant
deal
cost
with.
issues that go along with that, plus the
But
water.
just blasting through, I mean, that whole area is granite.
26 feet, I think.
30.
now, what's it
Is
gonna do to the traffic while all this construction's going on?
Well,
There's gonna be a
construction
cost
happens.
of, there's gonna be a cost of, detail,
Right.
for one thing, and
Well, you can't get out of
the
paying that,
construction.
so.
No, you can't get out of paying that, but who's gonna bear the burden of the cost?
And then the other issue that came up, believe it or not, was the height, because whether a fire ladder truck
Height
could go
restriction.
5 stories, and it's really 6 because it's on top of a parking garage in
Right,
the
right.
first iteration. And then the police department, because it's 5 stories, the chief said that he has to send 2 people per call, because you don't want one officer alone in a complex, because let's say they're on the 5th floor and something happens, the other officer has to get there, so they will always send 2 cars and 2 officers to any call that occurs in there, just based on the height of it. And then there's the height of the buildings itself, which people think as you drive down 495, you'll see this
Have
thing
yeah, right.
standing up
So
fairly
there's
tall.
this aesthetic issue also. There's several issues that.
Was there a concern also that that is one of the last industrial empty,
Well, it's not zone industrial, it's zoned for
Unoccupied.
business park,
Which is different.
which is different, but nobody's knocking on the door for that. But and they're going to leave a lot of the land vacant, but I think the issue is, I mean, if you want to line up positives and negatives, without taking sides of whether it's good or bad, there is one positive, and that all 300 apartments count towards the 10%
right,
state quota.
exactly.
On the other hand, you're also, they're talking one street in for 300 apartments. That's,
The traffic will be.
the traffic there is already very tight for the residents there. You probably need a traffic light.
So there's got to be a traffic study, traffic impact.
Right, but I actually talked to the developer last week, and we are months away from him filing the comprehensive permit.
Right.
He's just starting to meet with department heads one-on-one now to find out, make sure they understand what he's proposing and go over their issues. And what he told me is, we're months away from filing it because he hasn't even got to a point where he knows what the town agrees on and disagrees on with him. But on the other hand, it's there.
Right.
Something's going to that site. But to answer your question about the business park zoning is, yeah, you would be putting a residence in an area the town has declared they want a business park, which usually means corporate office space. Although the traffic from that would be far worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Would be.
And it is the same parcel where the casino would have gone.
Right.
So, to me, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. I mean, a lot of people are going now, gee, we wish they had the casino. But you look at things and go, the fact is the land's there, something's going to be built. The guy's using the law, now you have to deal with it. And as you know from being a town official, if the town doesn't find a way to get to the 10% threshold, you're open to 40Bs, whether it's Hopedale or Mendon. I mean, I'm in Mendon where I think we're at less than 1%.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Mendon hasn't been hit by some.
We have.
They
serious
did. Mendon
40Bs.
did.
We have. When I was on the planning
It's
board, I actually wrote
Warfield is.
I actually did 2 of, and that failed. our Warfield Street failed, and that's now being built out. It failed when the economy tanked, and the rest of it's being built out as a conventional subdivision.
Yeah, a lot of those, and some of those homes that were the 40B, the low-income homes.
No affordable.
I know somebody who, yeah, affordable.
Well, they made a lot of mistakes. The problem I have with
But-
40B, and I was a planning board member, was they gave it to the zoning board. And my issue was the zoning board's not used to building and regulating subdivisions, the planning board is. And
Exactly, right.
so when a board that's unfamiliar with, say, performance bonds, lot releases, you know, has a developer breathing down their neck threatening to go to the housing appeals court every 5 seconds if he, you know, doesn't get his way when he stamps his feet, means a subdivision can and will be built differently than a normal one. And in Mendon, my own personal opinion is that's what happened with the first part of that subdivision. The roads weren't built to standard. There's issues with some of the housing.
That's what happened there, and they all ended up paying a certain condominium or a fee
Right.
to make sure that the roads got plowed. But those houses, the affordable houses, were built differently.
And they weren't
Then-
supposed to be.
Well, they're not
And-
supposed to be built the same.
They weren't.
had construction issues because a relative of mine
Can't
got
say
one of
anything.
those homes, and there were some serious construction issues.
I'm on a board that's now reviewing that now looks at the other part of that subdivision, the market rate parts. I can't say a word.
Oh, okay.
I'm forbidden.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm saying something about somebody I regulate. But
Yeah, you can't do that.
all I'll say is there's also an issue, quite honestly, being on the Board of Assessors there, one of the people living in those couldn't pay the taxes after the override. Didn't have the income to pay the property tax increase. And,
So what do you do?
well,
What do you do?
you tell me he has to pay it.
Right, well, that's the interesting part about it.
But it caused some issues with people saying, well, if you bring people of a certain income level in, they may
That's
be
yours.
able to afford to buy the house with the subsidy, but then they couldn't pay the taxes on it with the subsidy.
That's a
That said, let's
exposure.
go back to Milford. Milford
Okay.
is a luxury apartment complex. I mean, this is not a repeat of the Groves or Shadowbrook.
No, it'll be nice.
You know, it is a, you know, $2,000-3,000, whatever it is for the 3-bedroom. You're talking well over $1,000 a month. You're talking a place with doggy daycare, you know, a recreation center, underground parking.
And the location
proposal.
is what's going to be
Which
the
poses
going to be the draw.
another interesting dilemma in Milford and in this area is that there's no place for people to live who are just starting out. There's no, you know, rents are $1,200, $1,500.
Well, actually, in Milford, you have a large number of apartments, so I disagree.
Well, that's
It's most
average.
of the suburbs. I mean, as you'll agree, any new house being built in Medway, Hopedale, or Mendon is all the, you know, 500,000 and up mini mansion, as opposed to true starter housing that they used to build.
They don't do that anymore.
No.
Don't do that anymore.
Anyway, the little beep is telling us we're running out of time. So here's your last pitch to voters. They should vote for you for state rep because
I have a dedicated work ethic, and I will work in this position 24/7. They will have 24/7 contact with me, which I'll designate a cell phone, and I'll give it out to all my constituents, and it will be published. I just promise to work my tail off in this position and help as many of my constituents that I can.